And what I would love to do here to get started, Jeff, is this whole concept of being persistent
Yeah.
without being a pest. And John Robbins, dude, I got your message. We'll get to the meat of the webinar. Okay, we'll get to this. All right. So where do you think this comes from? And the pest part of it, do you feel like that's maybe more of like a mindset thing with as a salesperson coming and thinking you're a pest? Or do prospects like really think that you're a pest? Like, what do you think it's more of? Like our mindset around it, or is it the prospect? Is it both? How do you come at
I
this?
I think that people are so afraid to screw up that they
Hmm.
don't want to toe the line of what it's going to take to actually succeed. And
Yeah.
it's, well, I don't want to be a pest. I'll tell you a story. I was working with a client recently, and he said, "Well, I just sent a text. I'm going to let that sit. I haven't heard back, but I'm going to give it a little time, and then I'll reach out again." And I said, "Okay, why?" And he said, "Well, I don't want to be a pest. How often is too often to follow up? I got to give him a chance to respond. After I've given him a few days, I'll let it simmer and all that." Okay, that's fine. A couple of things happened here. One, I said, "When was it the last time that you texted him?" "Oh, it was just like last week." I said, "Okay, pull out your phone. When was it?" "It was 3 weeks ago."
Yeah.
I said, "Now you've got no momentum going whatsoever. You don't have any kind of continuity. Like, you're going to send another text that's going to land with nothing behind it. Like, what? Why wouldn't you, text more often?" And there seems to be this thing, like every 2 weeks is like a follow-up cadence for some reason. And I don't know why that's the default. But I ask people, why not every day? I'm not suggesting that you call every day, but what if you had something that was so worth hearing that you could
Yeah.
feel confident that even if it was more often than necessary, it wouldn't be annoying, right? It wouldn't be, you wouldn't be a pest, right? Like, I tell people that being a pest is not about, I got this cool little lower third visual effect because I'm playing around with live streaming stuff, right? So, like, being a pest has nothing to do with the frequency, it has everything to do with the value. Like, if someone called me once a week with the same, "Hey, are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to buy yet?" I will block that number. I don't have anything to do with that person, right? There, that is not good sellership. But if someone called me every single day, showing that they were thinking of me, maybe showing me from another angle how they could help, like, I'm not, I'm not going to block that person. Certainly, I may not be ready to attend to them, but I'm not going to block that person. Um, and I think that if someone demonstrates really good selling skills, like, I'm actually more likely to buy from them because I see that they stand out, they differentiate themselves because they actually know what they're doing. So I just think it is a mindset because we're so afraid to be that thing that
Yep.
we don't even think about what it actually means to be a pest. Pest to me doesn't mean frequent. Pest to me means no value. I don't care how frequently or infrequently you deliver that message.
Yeah, we definitely have, because I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. We definitely have some ideas for you guys today, by the way, with some examples around what that value looks like and how you can find it for yourself, even if you don't have a lot of stuff like on your website. And Catherine actually put something in the chat I thought was interesting. A couple of vendors have lost my potential business because they waited too long before contacting me.
Right.
Interesting. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat though. Where is your biggest hang up? Like, what's the challenge you have with like this whole being a pest thing? Is it that you feel salesy? Is it you don't have anything to share? Is it that you've gotten feedback from prospects that they think that you're annoying? Is it not hearing from them? Like, let us know in the chat. What is your personal challenge or hang up around this whole being a pest and being persistent thing? Let
Ooh,
us
I
know in the
feel,
chat.
Simone, if can you, I feel sales and too aggressive. I feel like there's a typo in there somewhere. If you could clarify that, because I think that's getting right where we want to go. I just want to make sure that we can address what it is that you mean. Um, ooh, Kendra, I find it difficult not to sound repetitive. That
Yeah.
is a big one. Um, I'll address that right now, Kendra, and Jason, jump in here. I go back to Gittimer for this. And Gittimer, I can hear his voice. You and I both, because we know him, can hear his voice. But most
Yeah.
salespeople are not willing to do the hard work up front necessary to make the selling part easy. And I don't know if that's the sales Bible or the Little Red Book, but one of those, and that rings with me constantly. So much of a prospecting cadence, a follow up and follow through protocol, all of that, if you sit down for a couple hours, Maybe you sit down with your team. Maybe you sit down with your manager. Maybe you sit down with someone in marketing, like whatever it is. Maybe you get them all together. And this is a brainstorming session for, hey, what does a 16 touch cadence look like over the next 30 to 45 days? What would those 16 touches be? And then, Kendra, to your point, as a group, you can say, okay, do we like these? Are we hitting the points we need to hit often enough? Are those points then too repetitive, or are they differentiated enough to be able to still stand out and we don't feel like a broken record? But at the flip side of that is, if you go too far and too wide and you make 16 different points, there's no continuity there, and then it's not focused enough for your prospect to actually take action. So look, if you don't feel like you can make that, if you don't feel you can get through that cadence, that in a way that's fresh enough every time, well, instead of taking that hour to prospect today, take that hour to think about how you're going to prospect tomorrow, right? Do the work up front to get ready so that when you are in your dedicated prospecting time slot, which not enough of you have, when you sit down and get ready to do the work, it's not quite autopilot, but you have all the prep work done. Because so much of that so much of what slows you down is that indecision about what to say, how to say it, and you can't ever get into a groove. Do the work up front, get the resources that you need in order to identify what that's going to be. You can still change course while you're out there. 3 weeks in, you get a signal from your prospect that maybe they're onto something. Okay, at least you've done the work. You've got a bank of resources available for you to go and hit them where they need to be hit. That is something that people just not enough do. So thank you for chiming in with that, Kendra.
And we're getting more of the same, kind of thing, Jeff. Here's what I'm going to do real quick. Actually, I think this will give some really good context, because you're saying, hey, 16 touches. And some people are like, holy shit, dude, that's a lot of touches. What do I say? How do I not be repetitive? Let me share something real quick, you guys. This is a good kind of like sequencing structure that you can do. And Jeff, I think this will give some folks some good context here into what we're doing.
Oh, look
Okay,
at
can
you.
you guys give me just can you see my desktop,
Yes.
Jeff?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I call this keep it simple sequencing. So this is a pattern that you can follow on a weekly basis. And what we're going to talk about today is like different kind of content that you can plug in. So real quick, what you want to do, and you can keep this super simple, this is a really just kind of great foundational starting place, is day one on your sequence here. What you're going to do is 3 things, and they're all going to be focused around the same exact message. So that message is going to be, what's my prospect's like top, like number 1 problem? And then you're going to have messaging around that. So you're going to call them and leave a voicemail if they don't pick up. And you're going to point that voicemail to your email. So at the end of your voicemail, you're going to say, hey, Jeff, I'm about to send you an email. And the subject line is, hey, Jeff, just left a voicemail, or voicemail from Jason.
Right.
Yeah. And Dustin says triple it. Yeah. So this is a triple touch. So phone, voicemail, email, and then you can do LinkedIn connection. And then day 3. So this is where you can start to get in some of those additional touches without overwhelming the prospect with content. So you actually don't need to have a super long email every time you send it. So what you can do in day 3 is you can do phone, no voicemail, and then you do an email follow-up.
Can I ask you why you would not leave a voicemail?
Just so the prospect doesn't get so many different voicemails from you.
Why not? Like, this goes to the point that I'm making earlier, and you're not the only one that says this. And I think about this, like, every time you leave a voicemail, it's an opportunity for your prospect to hear your voice. Maybe they'll skip it, but does it take you that long to leave a voicemail? Like, it's again, why would they not want to hear from me? If I can clear that bar, I think of voicemail as an opportunity to make someone's day. You can stand out that way. And it's funny, Todd Capone and I were talking about this just the other day. He's like, I get 150 emails a day as a CRO. I get 3 voicemails. Which ones do you think I'm actually getting through? And I think it doesn't take, like, tell a joke. You know what I mean? Like, Hey, Jason, it's Bajorek. I left you a voicemail 2 days ago, and I don't really have anything new to share with you. I just think that this is an opportunity for me to maybe stand out a little bit. Full disclosure here. So, what do you call a fly without wings? All right, give you a minute. A walk. You get it? They don't have wings. Look, hey, hopefully I made you smile. Have a great day. You'll hear from me again soon. And then you hang up. Like, who
Yeah.
doesn't laugh at that? And
Yeah.
what does that do? And I just don't think it takes long enough to be worried about skipping it, right? Like most people will say, oh, no one's going to listen to it, so I'm not going to leave them. Like that's an opportunity to make someone laugh. I'm in. And I just ad libbed that in whatever it was, 19 seconds. Like I just don't think there's a reason not to. I'm not going to argue with what you're saying here because I understand where you're going with and it's sound, but I like to challenge little things like that because it's an opportunity to make someone smile.
No, I agree 100% with you, man. I think that this voicemail here is totally optional. Like if you feel like you can do like what Jeff is saying, like all for it, you know? Why not? You know, as long as
Right.
what you're saying is like you're actually being a human and attempting to add some value there. Um, so like this piece here is just going to be a short email, and some people are already commenting in this. It's just going to be any thoughts. That's literally the entire email, excuse me. And then this part here, you could do optional. Um, like this phone call is also optional if they open the email. So if you're like, hey, we have so many people to get a hold of, I don't have time to call everyone, you know, to fit into my 1 hour a day of prospecting, whatever it might be, this might be optional too. So you just follow this same pattern times 3 weeks. So I know 16 touches sound like a lot, but here's 5 right here in 1 week,
Right.
spread out over a 48-hour period. Follow this same exact pattern for 3 weeks. So Kevin asked, what are your thoughts on the working from home and reaching out to people on the phone? Absolutely reach out to them.
Yeah.
Use a tool like apollo.io or lead IQ, get their cell phone number or direct dial, or work through the assistant / gatekeeper to get someone's extension and leave these people voicemails, call them while they're at home. So I just wanted to add some quick context for you guys here. If you follow this sequencing structure, you can get to 15 touches in 3 weeks, no problem, without having to like create a bunch of content, because all of these touches are going to be focused on the message that is in this email.
Right.
Voicemail is going to point to that. Your phone or voicemail here is going to reference this. The next email is going to say any thoughts in the same email chain back to this one. Like you only need like one piece of content and one problem point that you're focusing on.
So Jason, help me understand too. And actually I'm gonna ask you 2 questions. I'm gonna get to Lisa's question here first. She said, would you send a video as part of day 1 or wait until day 3?
Well, I would wait until day 3. And what I would do is only send a video to someone if they open up your first email.
Because then they're receiving it and you can utilize video with a reasonable certainty that they're going to open that too.
Yeah.
So the any thoughts email, you're basically just bumping your message back to the top of their inbox, right? What's the difference between that and just checking in? Why, to me, I'm not sure how differentiated that is. So I listened to your work. You say it works. So if it works, I'm not going to argue with what works. But that's something that I wouldn't intuitively go to because it sounds too much like the hey, I'm just checking in. Did you read my email kind of thing that we've been all taught, and I've been teaching people too to stay away from. Right. So why is that differentiated enough for you? Why does any thoughts work where just checking in doesn't?
I don't know why I've never explained it like this, but if we were having a conversation, Jeff, and I asked you, what's the meaning of life? And you're sitting there and you're sitting there pondering and you're thinking for a couple seconds. And then what if I immediately followed that up with, did you get that question, Jeff? Did you hear the question? You're like, yeah, dude.
Right.
Like, got the question versus, any thoughts? What are you thinking? It's much more inviting.
Yeah.
And
I
it
also,
doesn't, it's not this like, did you get my last email? Sounds very needy. Hey, did you get that? You know,
mm,
like think of like the texting game also. And I think things are starting to become, even though email is asynchronous, things are starting to become more synchronous in how they feel,
yeah.
and it being more text and chat based. You know, so this any thoughts, it's like, hey, that's an email about you. I'm asking, what are your thoughts? Not,
Mm.
hey, did you take a look at the thing that I sent you?
Okay. Okay. I also think, you know, as you're explaining that, and as I'm thinking through it, I think it's not an accountability check. It's not anything that could be construed as, are you doing your job right? Like, hey, did you get that email? Like what? But it's like, no, I want to know more. No, I really meant that. I asked a question, I really meant that. And
Yep.
so it's kind of a bump to the top of the inbox with a different tone behind it. I completely agree. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I like that.
The highest response rates, and I see people kind of commenting in our sequences, are to that question.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Are
it's
they
kind of
good
interesting.
responses?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely they are. The meetings that are scheduled are usually from those any thoughts emails. Any thoughts? Oh yeah, hey, I took a look at this. Let's chat.
Got it.
Or hey, this looks really interesting. Can you send me some more information?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we can kind of park it here for a second, Jeff.
Yeah.
This is kind of hitting the like the touch pattern part of this,
Hmm.
right? With like the, how should we engage someone and that sort of stuff. Do you think that we talked enough around like the mindset piece of it? Around this like feeling salesy kind of thing? Because I see this a lot with prospecting where people might send one or two emails to someone and then just give up and maybe after two or three phone calls. And they do about a third of what we're suggesting here.
Right. And they do about a third of what they're suggesting. And I think that is mostly because they don't have the necessary context, you know, and I pay attention, and you're kind of my feed for this kind of stuff is, you know, I hear things through you that I actually, then I don't have to go find them myself. But when you talk about how, you know, the average number of touches that you need before you even get a response is like
Yep.
across all industries, like 13, it's like 12.6 or something, right? Which means it's 13. If you're not calling, if you're not touching 13 times, you're not even in the game. Like, you're relying on an outlier at that point. So most people are like, oh, I called 2 or 3 times and then they give up. Now our buyers know that you're giving up after 2 or 3 times. They'll wait you out. It's
Yeah.
so easy to wait people. I do it all the time. And so that's when I say, like, good sellership gets rewarded. Like, if I know someone's going to be persistent and the approach is a little bit varied but still focused enough, like, think about what would get you to buy. And think about how many people you wait. You're like, yeah, they're not calling back again. I don't need to. If it's really important, they'll call me again. So you're not even getting, I think context is important. Secondly, it all comes down to belief. If you don't believe you are someone worth talking to with something worth talking about, you're not going to reach out often enough. And if you don't believe that you're someone worth talking to with something worth talking about, how is your prospect supposed to ever believe that? You're trying to establish a reputation for yourself as someone they should take a call from. 2, 3 times over the course of a month, right? Like, oh yeah, I just called. I'll give them a couple of weeks to simmer on that. How short is the news cycle? I mean, really, like that voicemail from 2 days ago, I forgot that I even had it. I'm not going back to listen to that. And you know, it's just there is this persistence that you need to commit to, and you need to believe that you're worth hearing from. So when I say, what would it take? Like, what would you feel comfortable with reaching out every single day?
Yeah.
If you can clear that bar, then imagine if that message that's worth hearing daily is spread out over 3 times in a week. You'd feel really solid about that, and you'd have an opportunity to actually create some momentum. So I believe the mindset can't be understated, but I know that, you know, people chiming in here and thinking they want some stuff that's a little more tactical. So I think we've said enough about the mindset piece, even though it really, if you don't have that, listen no further.
Yeah. I mean, it's the hardest part is like not wanting to feel salesy. So I think
Yeah.
like having some stuff to share is good. Here, let me share my screen again, Jeff.
Yeah.
I forgot to show people this. So another thing that you can do, so the interview has not gone live yet, but I interviewed um, Zoe Hartsfield. She was the top, one of the top BDRs at BombBomb, and she sent out over 4,000 personalized videos. And one of the things she shared, this is not a personalized video, but instead of saying, "Hey, any thoughts?" you could literally point to in a video the email up here. And this is just a test one because I wanted to show you what it looks like. So what you could do is use something like Vidyard. So I don't know if any of you guys use Vidyard here, but you could do something like this. So you could record yourself. Here, let me change that. There we go. So you could record yourself like this.
Oh, look at you. This is so meta.
Yeah. So you could go something like this. Smile at the camera. Don't say anything. Record it for 5 seconds. You stop it like this. And then what you could do here as this is loading is you could still do that any thoughts links. Hey, Josh, any thoughts on the email up there? And you can go into, so this is another way that you can add like your personality so that people can actually see you, and you can use like a templated video for this, because the goal is not to get the person to watch the video. The goal is to do this. Oops. So you're just going to drop it in here, and you can actually get rid of this link here like this. So you could do something like this.
Oh, so you're just using the animated preview. You don't even care that they watch the video, because that 5 second clip is really the entire video, right? You only clip for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and you don't even need to like use the link, because the goal is not necessarily to get them to click the video, but it's just kind of a little creative, fun way that you can use variations of that any thought. That's the free version, Clay, of Vidyard.
I like that. And Mel Schwartz asked, do either of you use video email? Yes. I don't use it to the extent that Jason does, and this is really, really clever. But one of my biggest complaints, not really complaints, but objections to using video emails, like it's just as easy to ignore a video email as it is a regular email, right? So
Yep.
the novelty of using it for the first time is it's just novelty, right? But if you can basically animate yourself pointing somewhere, referring to something, like that, I think is different, right? That's a different kind of attention grabber. I do like that quite a bit. That's why I like hanging out with you, dude. You teach me stuff all the time. There was Lee. I want to answer Lee's question while you were. I don't want to switch gears here too much, but Lee, you said, what if many of the people I'm trying to reach would only have personal numbers or cell numbers that aren't given out? So if they give you a number that's different, but like, what do you use in lieu of voicemail? Here's my response to that. We've been in work from home mode for 11 months. Do you think that the work voicemail has gone unattended for 11 months? Like, if we're using voicemail as a touch point, and this is the same, overcoming the objection of people don't use the phone, so why would I call them on the phone? It's a touch point. They're going to see your number. They're going to see your name. They're going to, if they do check the voicemail, they're going to hear your voice. Like, those voicemails are getting checked. Just because we're working from home doesn't mean that it's not. So will it be as effective for everybody? No, of course not. But I don't think there's really a reason to abandon it altogether, because it's another point in your cadence, and it's another valuable opportunity in your sequence.
Yeah. So Lee says many of them do not have work voicemails. I'm struggling to, like, if you called into the assistant in the front office and like people need to get a hold of them through phone, there's got to be some sort of way that people get a hold of them. Maybe it's just a line that goes into the lab and someone picks it up. I would really work on like what Jeff is saying there, work through the assistant. Art Sobchak wrote a great book called Smart Calling. He's just all about this, but go in and ask the assistant for help. So like Lee, hey, my name's Jason. I know this might be kind of an odd request, but I know like a lot of the scientists that work in the lab don't have a way of really get a holding them directly. Like, I was wondering if you might be able to help me out. Yeah. Why are you calling? And then explain the reason for your call and what you're trying to share with them. What's the best way to get this information in that person's hands? I thought you would know better than I.
Yeah.
Engage the assistant, ask for help.
Anytime you get to talk to another human being, they can be an asset for you. It's just, I look for those opportunities. And I mean, quite frankly, anytime anybody answers the phone, it's a good day, right? I mean, you have an opportunity with every exchange to make someone's day. And you have an opportunity to separate yourself from everybody else that calls. And I saw a question in here too. What if you get, what if you get someone and they say, hey, this is my personal number? Well, apologize. I wasn't aware that this is your personal number, but this is why I'm trying to get a hold of you. Is there a better way you would suggest that I try to get a hold of you, or should we just schedule an appointment? Because I think we can really help.
Yeah.
You get someone on the phone, you get someone on the phone. If you unintentionally got them on a personal number, well, then just, I'm really sorry. I didn't know this was a personal number. This was just the number that I was given when I looked you up.
Yeah. The other thing too is you could be, if you know it's a personal number, you could be honest with that too. How did you get my personal number? How did you get this? I use and because people are asking, just share it in the chat.
Yeah.
I actually use a tool called Lead IQ to do it. And just to be honest with you, it's just a more effective way for me to like share value
Right.
with the people I'm calling. So I totally understand though on your part that this was unexpected. But is it cool if I get 30 seconds? I could tell you why I'm calling, and then you could let me know if you want to keep chatting at all.
Yeah.
Bam, boom,
Well,
boom, boom, boom. You know?
what would you have said if it wasn't their personal number, right? Like they're
Yeah.
on the phone. They're on the phone. And I love this. I'm forgetting. It's killing me. I think it was Daryl Prail who's this was a while ago. We recorded for the Why and the Buy, and he said, "You know what? If they pick up I know you're interrupting, but they chose to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
They chose to pick up the phone.
Yep.
They're not opting into anything, but they chose to pick up the phone, right? So let's not. I just feel like there's so many people, particularly when it comes to prospecting, they're looking for ways to talk themselves out of doing these things. Well, what if this? What if that? And what if that? What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? Look, you are someone who provides value for people who need it. And if you don't believe in that, then you're going to look for excuses. And
Yep.
if you do believe in that, you're going to have success and have enough confidence in your own skills to say, you know what, I didn't realize this was a personal number. And I'm sorry that you're tied up or you're out of the office. You're on vacation right now. I didn't mean for that. But I do need to talk to you about something. How would you prefer that I reach out again? I'll hang up right now. Give me a number to call and leave you a message, right? How ridiculous does that sound, right? And when the person on the other end hears that, what are they likely to do? Like, there's nothing wrong with being transparent about your intentions. And if your
Yeah.
intentions are good, maybe that call doesn't work out. Okay, on to the next one. We make these excuses before we even get started, and it doesn't help us.
One thing I want to point out about what you just do so naturally too is there's so much empathy in that response. It's like if someone's like, "Hey, like you called me on my personal number, how'd you get this?" It's like, "Oh, hey, my bad."
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah,
you can hear it in your tones, like, "Oh, hey, is there a better way to get a hold of you?" It's like you're leaning in and thinking about what it feels like to get a surprise business call on your cell phone that you don't give out for business purposes.
right,
That is
right.
so important.
And
Um,
yeah,
Daryl Prail, though, I want to point out like what he said there. I just love that too. It's like, um, you you are not an interruption, but you are interrupting the
yeah,
person. But you do not have to identify as a pest or an interruption. Um, so Jeff, we looked at this before the webinar. I want to share this with some folks too.
yeah.
If you guys want to see a really good example of this in action, I want to show you a guy, Lou Casada. So just to give you some just back some insights, some background. Yeah, some background
There you go.
on Lou. What he's really good at, so this is another technique you could use. This is probably the second big technique, is you could point a problem out to the prospect that they don't know that they have. So Lou works for a company called Channel Advisor, and what they do is help companies like with their Amazon listings and their e-com listings. So if they're selling an e-commerce product, like how do they rank higher when someone search for, protein powder or whatever it might be? So let me share this with you. This is something really cool that you can do with video, or really you can do it text-based too, is you can point out problems that people didn't know that they have. So here's what Lou did in his email here. Let me zoom in for you guys. So he puts in the subject line, big problem. And by the way, you guys are going to get a replay of this if you want to look it over a little closer. Big problem, Amazon advertising ghost. And we're going to watch that video here in a second so you guys can see it. And then he sends a follow-up email like this. Looks like you watched that video I sent. I know you're busy. I'll keep it brief. But are any of these things that you're focused on right now? And he
Is
gets
it
a
pretty?
response.
Is it pretty safe to say that people realize that they're probably being tracked in terms of opening emails and things like that? Is this going to shock anybody that that Lou knows that Dan opened this email?
I think it depends on who you're reaching out to and how tech savvy they are. A lot of the people he's reaching out to are marketers.
Yep.
So what you could do to counteract that, because I work with a lot of people that sell kind of traditional professional services, and what you can do is kind of like put a statement in front of that to kind of like acknowledge that it might be kind of weird. Hey, this might be kind of weird, but I do have a tool that notifies me, like if you watch the video or not. It looks like you started playing it. If you can acknowledge that, hey, this might be kind of weird, that sort of stuff. Yeah, Ken, like I said, you're going to get a recording, you guys. Any free tools for opens and tracking? Apollo.io has a free tracking tool as well. So this is what the email said and the response that he got. Let's just watch the first part of this video. Let me show you guys, and I need to share my sound as well. So here's the video. This video is just so awesome, and we're not going to play the entire thing.
999. 1,000.
So just to give you some insight, this right here, that's the company he's reaching out to, this company Ghost. So he's sharing his screen on Vidyard, and this is in the background.
Oh, hey there. Hey, Dan. Sorry about that. Got to get a pump in whenever you can. You know what I mean? Anyway, we've never met before. My name's Lou Casados, reaching out to you from Channel Advisor. Listen, I'm a huge fan of Ghost products. They've changed the way that I work out. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to get them into the hands of every single American who's in the gym. So that being said, you guys are having a big problem right now when it comes to Amazon advertising. So currently right now, your brand name is being what's called conquested on Amazon. But actually, you know what? Let me just show you. Hold on. Okay, and we're back. So if I go to Amazon, right, just like 51% of Americans do when they're buying something, and I search Ghost pre-workout, okay, this is what comes up. So right off the bat, a couple things are alarming. First thing right here is what I'm talking about, right? This is called a sponsored brand advertisement. And the way this works is that brands, only brands, bid on certain keywords. So that way when someone searches a specific keyword or combination of keywords, like for example, Ghost pre-workout, they are bidding a certain amount of dollars and they're paying anytime somebody clicks on that. So what this means is this company.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I think you guys kind of get what we're doing here. Like what Lou is pointing out is a problem that this company didn't know that they had. They're getting outranked by their competitors. So if you have a way with whatever you're selling, they sell, it's a professional service lumped in with, software. So it's software as a service. They're giving them software to improve this stuff. And they're also from a services standpoint, helping them. If you have something that you sell where you can see the problem, use a video and like educate the customer around like why that's a problem and what you're seeing.
I also think that what Lou is doing there is providing insight that a lot of other people wouldn't provide, right? Like we launched into, that's a 5-minute video. We launched into 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes of it. You can see where that's going. So even if they don't watch the whole video, it's clear that Lou knows what he's talking about. It's clear that he's done the research on it, and it feels like he's launching into a pitch that a lot of people wouldn't even listen to the whole thing, but you don't need to worry about that because what have we accomplished in the first 90 seconds? One, Lou's a bit of a goofball doing 1,000 curls, right? And he sits down in front of the camera, hikes that t-shirt, if you noticed, again, too, and it's just a little bit of personality there. But then he goes right into it, and he's very affable, very natural, like, oh, I should show you. Pause the video, rejoin. Here it is. This is what your customers see. Like, who sells that way? And again, we get caught up in the pitch. We get caught up in, will they pay attention to the whole thing? Will they listen to the voicemail? Will they get the email? Is the subject line of the email going to get their attention? What are you doing from a persistency standpoint, from a consistency standpoint, from a novelty standpoint, from a contextual standpoint, to demonstrate that you're someone worth talking to? If you get that stuff right, the little minutia stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't. He could put on a clown suit for the second 2 minutes or the last 2 minutes of that video, hoping that nobody sees it, figuring that nobody will, and still separate himself in a way that's going to be meaningful, what he's already set himself up for. And the longer someone watches that video, probably, this isn't statistically significant, but I'd be willing to bet that the longer someone watches that video, the more ready they are to buy from him. And so if he
Yep.
looks into analytics about how long people are watching, I'll bet there's a correlation there because he's already proving that he's speaking their language. That is really, really good use of video. And I think most people think of video and email as the Jason Bay holding up a whiteboard, waving with a smile on his face. Will you watch this video so I can send you a pitch? No, that's the, second, third email in a sequence. Hey, it looks like you've opened this. I've got some things I can show you. This is what this is all about. Send another video with that stuff in there. Think about what you're doing. Think about it. It's really hard to think critically when you're trying to do 1,000 things at the same time. That's where salespeople get tripped up.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I want to check in with you guys here. And by the way, I'm going to drop in Lou's LinkedIn. He shares a lot of the stuff that he's doing that's working so well. Like the way he sets up everything, like please like connect with him, give him a shout out, let him know that we played his stuff. Like Lou's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
We've interviewed him on the podcast too. I want to check in with you guys in the chat here. Can you either share like something you're taking away that's been helpful so far or something that you're still stuck on? We have some more stuff to show you, but I want to, we want to kind of be mindful of like what you guys need right now. Hit us in the chat. What's one thing that's either been helpful for you or what's one thing that you're still kind of stuck on when it comes to how do I be persistent without being a pest? Hit me in the chat.
Do you want to get to a couple of these questions that have been asked for a little bit too, while we're waiting for those to come in? Do you want to address some of those and I'll address the chat? How do you want to play this, JB?
Yeah. Why don't you address the chat, man, while that's coming in, and then I'll look through the Q&A here and see what we can answer.
Cool. Daryl Perry says he'll be upping the video email game. I like that. I use Vidyard too. A lot of tools out there, but I like that one. No such thing as being a pest in sales. Well, I don't know if I'll go that far, but if you know, because you can do it wrong, right? But Dale, your point is great. Don't be a pest. You have a choice. And I said, that client that I referred to earlier, he's like, well, this guy gets calls from bad salespeople all the time with bad pitches, and they just get, annoyed all the time. I'm like, you know what? You do have a choice. You don't have to be a bad sales rep with a bad message, right? Like that's the whole thing. You do the hard work up front. Amy, I've been using video, making them all personal. I have not had any go to spam. I like that. I like hearing that it doesn't go to spam. Amy, I want to hear more about your success with that. Short, concise messaging. Any conversation is valuable. You are absolutely right, Ember. Thank you for saying that. Believing in yourself and the product. I've used Loom, might be switching to Vidyard. Make sure JBay gets commission on that one. If someone says not interested right now, but maybe another time, how much follow-up do you do there? You do as much as it takes. Again, it's always up to the customer. But if you believe you have a solution to their problem, you owe it to them to get an opportunity to have a discussion in those terms. Not interested right now, maybe another time. Cool. When would you like me to call back? Right now, you're scheduled for 2 days from now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I love what you're saying there. Not interested is like, it's not really an objection.
No.
Right? Like they're not really giving a reason. It's more of a shrug off. If you get an email back that says not interested and their phone number is in the signature, call them immediately. Hey, Jeff, my name is Jason with Blissful Prospecting. You just sent me an email that you weren't interested. So I totally get if this, might be out of the blue here. And then go into, but what I was thinking was this, acknowledge that it's I know this might be kind of weird to get a call from someone after you said not interested, but I did some research. I have some really good, what I think is really good stuff to share with you. Is it cool if I take a minute and tell you what that is and you can let me know if you never want to hear from me again?
Love that. Most people who say they aren't interested don't have a real understanding of what we do for them. But I've worked with companies that look a lot like yours, and we've gotten results for them that they were not expecting. Look, I'm only asking for 10 minutes and I don't want them right now. Let's set a time next week. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to give you a few insights. And if you give me that 10 minutes, I promise it will be worth your while. And if those are the only 10 minutes you ever want from me, I'm totally good with that. But I owe it to you to help you understand how we're solving these problems, because no one's solving them like this. And you will take away some insights. It'll be worth your time, I promise. And then they say no again. And this is where I go to my friend Mike Weinberg, and he's like, just say, meet with me anyway. Just meet with me anyway. I know you're happy with somebody else. The meeting is worth paying for. I'm not even going to send an invoice. When you double down like that, And if you can do it with some kind of enthusiasm, it works. And then, hey, here's the thing. You give them the 10 minutes, they give you the 10 minutes, and they still say they're not interested. Cool. Don't call them back anymore. Just cross them off your list. If you get that far and you meaningfully convey what it is you do and how you help, and they still say they're not interested, okay, cool. It's because sometimes it's just not a good fit. But what you owe them because you are a value provider. What you owe them is just the opportunity to, is what you owe them is the messaging around how you help and how that's different. That is to answer one of the other emails. When do you send the last email? You send the last email when you're convinced that you're not a good fit for them anymore.
Yeah. What a comment on that is like that sequence that I just shared with you guys. That's 3 weeks long. If you don't get a response to that, maybe give it a break for a month or two and then come back to it and do this.
Right.
You don't do breakup emails. I cannot stand breakup emails. They're so canned and weird. And like you tell the person you're never going to contact them again, which is not true. And you're telling someone, it's like, imagine in a dating context, if like you're trying to go out on a date with someone and you say the last resort is like, well, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm not going to be here for very long. Like this is the last time I'm going to ask you out on a date. And the other person might be like, okay, cool. Awesome. I don't have to hear from you again. That's great. So it's like they didn't opt in and like want anything from you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think we covered a lot of these questions actually, Jeff. Like I'm looking at like, yeah, reaching back out and engaging, Kelly Dan. For people that have limited budget, Grace, like for tools, Apollo.io, there's a free plan on there that you could get started with. Mixmax is another really kind of low cost option.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Peters, Shubham, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We already talked about like sort of sequencing and frequency and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so Grace, Yesware is another one.
Yep.
That you could try if you're using Outlook. And I think it's like 10 or 20 bucks a month. I know it's kind of tough, but maybe put the Netflix account on hold for a month or two. This is important stuff, to be able to see if people is opening there in the chat. I dropped it in there for you.
Steve
Jeff.
Honeyman, Steve Honeyman asked me if I could say that again. You're going to have to watch the replay, Steve. It's time stamped probably 46 minutes into the program, but we got some other stuff to cover.
Okay, so I want to Jeff, let's do this. Can you guys in the chat, who do you sell to? Let me know like the types of companies, like industry and persona. And we have some really clever ways that you can get like valuable resources even if your company doesn't have them. Okay, so we have shippers. If you want to like kind of look at the chat and kind of shout some of that stuff out, Jeff, and I can pull this stuff up on my end.
Cool. Electrical contractors, social media marketers, managed service providers, shippers, transportation managers, coffee roasters. Oh, hey, Jim. Retirement plan holders, funeral directors, tour operators, tech manager. I don't really know what that could be, anything. Specialty physicians. I have some experience doing that. Municipalities, specialty physicians. Jason, while you're working stuff up, with the way I used to sell the specialty physicians, I had a handful of studies. This is what your peers are talking about right now. Where do you weigh in on this? And in any study, there are 3 or 4 talking points that are good questions worth asking. So don't be afraid to go there, Dustin. Municipalities, top 10 pharma companies, bankers, ed tech, engineering. Jason, there's almost no continuity here, but we're all over the map.
Let's go through some examples then. I know that you have some good background with like doctors and maybe some pharma stuff might be kind of tangential to some of the stuff that you used to do. But I'm going to drop in some links, you guys. Another way that you can find really good insights is by going to like one of these 6 like consulting firms. Like the top consulting firms in the world put out really, really great industry related content. So like Deloitte, for example, and again, I dropped this in the chat so you guys have the sites. If you just type in pharma and then go into insights, I mean, there is just all kinds of cool stuff. Patient engagement strategies. Think of how valuable that is for the people you're reaching out to in pharmaceuticals.
Right.
I mean, there's just all kinds of like really, really good stuff in here. And I'll tell you what, don't just send the entire article to them and say, hey, Jeff, I thought you'd find this article handy. And you're like, holy shit, there's so much here. Say, hey, I thought you'd find this article handy, particularly if you go down to the paragraph or figure 3B, there's some really interesting insights in there around some studies they did.
Take a screenshot of this graphic. Take a
Yep.
screenshot of the graphic, put it in the body of your email. I
Yep.
attach the entire article in the bottom. Feel free to read all 45 pages, but this is what I want to direct your attention to. And that's exactly what I used to do with a highlighter, right? I'd have a yellow sticky note that I'd attach my card to the front of the study. I'd highlight something in the abstract or the body text of the study, and I'd write on the sticky note, hey, what do you think about this? Love, Jeff. And they'd have my card to call me back or whatever. And you know what? It took probably 8 or 9 times, but I'd get calls back. Sometimes a bit sooner, sometimes a bit longer. But if you're providing value and you can help somebody, you owe it to them to break through.
I mean, Jeff, what you said there too, I think is like, it makes you look like an actual like expert in this stuff. When you're able to do that kind of thing, you're bringing in like industry insights. So like, look, here's another thing, because I'm just looking at what people put in the chat. For people that are selling insurance, I mean, they did a whole 2021 insurance outlook. This is just one of the sites, you guys. This is just Deloitte.
Yeah.
There's so much great information on like how much premiums are increasing over time and what people are doing to combat that. There's another one here that I saw around, let's do employee benefits and see what pops up. That was something else I saw people put in here.
Deloitte values your feedback.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff in here. So if you go through these sites, you guys, I mean, look at Forrester.
Yep.
They have all kinds of featured insights around COVID. There's featured insights by industry on McKinsey and Company. I mean, dude, you guys, there is just so much gold in there. Don't rely on your company to provide this stuff for you if you're not getting it. Don't go through marketing.
Right.
Find 2-3 links like this yourself that provide real good insights to your prospects and share this stuff. I mean, look, this is Boston Consulting Group. There's so much going on in here, you guys. There's stuff around software and SaaS if you're selling that kind of stuff. Consumer products with CPGs is what someone else said. There's just all this stuff's free. You don't even have to pay money for these reports. And there's case studies and there's all kinds of cool stuff.
Are you even giving them emails, Jason? This is all just on their homepage.
Yeah, this is all stuff you can just link to. You don't even got to download the reports.
Here's what I'd like to see. Sorry to interrupt you, Jason. Here's what I'd like to see.
All good.
Is find some stuff that's working and then share it with your colleagues. Share it with the other reps on your team. Share it with your manager. Share it with, and then after you continue to do this, take this to your manager and say, hey, why am I the one doing this? Do we have anybody in this company who could do this stuff for us? Like, I need to be in front of clients. If there was someone who could give this to me, then this would be rocket fuel for me and everybody else on the team. Like this is what I'm doing to succeed, but I could succeed more if there was someone responsible for doing this. There's no reason that someone in marketing can't check these sites weekly and send a blast to the field saying, hey, cool report, 1, 2, 3 bullet point insights, use this in your outreach. If you got one new study a week, I mean, it's not hard for you to do, but think about the multiplicative effect it could have on the rest of your team. And I like saying words like multiplicative, particularly when they just come up, because I'm so proud of myself for not tripping over that. So anyway.
I don't even know what that word means. You would be good at Scrabble. My wife kicks my ass in Scrabble all the time.
Mine does too.
But you guys, between those 6 sites, and Ken Safolo just commented like, hey, he just went to Deloitte and had something relevant immediately. Between those 6 sites, I saw something about every single industry that you guys shared. So look in those 6 sites that I dropped in. There's got to be something there. One other thing I'll leave you with that's really insightful too. If you work for a really big company, let's say you work for Zoom, and you're reaching out to chief information officers, so CIOs. Well, guess what? Like the executive team at your company, if you work at Zoom, has a CIO that happens to be very popular, that gets interviewed a lot on all kinds of publications. So you can share those types of things. So if you're working for a big company, Fortune 1000, or a category leader in your industry, it's very likely that someone on your executive team is being interviewed on podcasts and Forbes and publications and industry reports. And if that persona matches the personas you're reaching out to, share those industry insights from your company that your executive team is creating. Share that with your prospects. that's another really, really great way to just add some good value there at the beginning.
Totally agreed. So, I mean, like, if you think about prospecting as trying to build a reputation, you'll approach it differently. And so, what are some assets that you could use or deploy to build your reputation? Stuff like what you're talking about. Stuff like looking for studies or research or data. And it's not just about the data; it's about the story the data tells.
Yep.
Right. I mean, when you go back to what Lou was saying, and he's like, "Look, your brand is being like you're not maximizing your branding on Amazon, where, by the way, 51% of Americans go to look for stuff like this." So, like, just sharing insights, that's how you build a reputation. That's funny. I say that you want to become someone worth talking to with something worth talking about. The way you
Yep.
become someone worth talking to is having a lot of things worth talking about. And did you get my email? Just circling back, touch and base. No one wants their base touched. Give them some insights,
Yep.
right? And then you'd be known as someone who gives insights.
Yeah.
I love making Jason laugh. I try to do it at least 3 times every time on one of these webinars, and I get the giggle and I feel good. So thanks
Yeah.
for indulging me, Jay.
Dude, Ken, awesome. Kid Cipolla said I got way more than I paid for out of this. That's awesome. Jeff, just because people got to go here in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
where can people go to connect with you? What do you got going on? And I'll drop a link here in the chat because I definitely want people to check out your work, man.
Thank you. I'm building a community at rethinkthewayyouSell.com. We've got close to 400 people in there right now. I've got a free course that I just launched in there, kind of a master class. And that's where I go to really engage with people. And, you know, the social networks feel a bit less social these days. So I wanted to create a place where I could do that. So there is a great place to connect, or LinkedIn is great. My website, I'll tell you what, check it today, check back in 2 weeks, because I'm going to brand new website in the next 2 weeks at jeffbajorek.com. So yeah, I mean, you Google my name, you'll find me. But I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And I'm actually starting to go live regularly. I'm going live this afternoon. And I also go live on Saturday mornings on Clubhouse. So if you're down on Clubhouse, then you can follow me there too. So trying to make myself a little more accessible, because I like talking to people in real time. So yeah, free weekly live stream training on Wednesday afternoons, and going live on Clubhouse to chat. So thanks for having me.
And Jeff, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Thanks for coming on. I dropped the link. I'll drop it again, you guys. Please check out the community. Like there's a ton of good stuff. There's you know, peers like yourself in there, and then there's people like Jeff and other sales consultants and trainers and experts and that sort of stuff in there. It is a super cool community. And Jeff, just you provide so much value for the industry, man. And I love how positive you are, but not in a be positive kind of way. You know, I think you're adding just so much value to the industry and all that stuff, man. So I appreciate you so much for coming on, dude. Always a fun to jam with you.
Cool. Thank you. We'll do it again.
Cool. All right, everyone. Hey, thanks for spending an hour with us. Please go check out Jeff's community, join, and let us know if there's anything else we can help with when we send out the recording later today. All right, guys. See ya.
Yeah, I wonder if we gave, who was it at the front of the webinar and wanted us to get to the meat of the webinar? Did we get enough? I wonder if we got enough meat.
Hopefully. All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Later, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya.